Donald has spent the entirety of his presidency at war with the Federal Reserve. He's continuously attacked Fed Chair Jerome Powell, demanded resignations, and now he's trying to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, something he has no authority to do. Today, I want to take a deep dive into the implication of Donald's attempt to oust Cook and what it could mean for the future of the Fed and our economy. These stakes are very high here, and Donald's attempt at another hostile takeover should concern all of us. First, Donald's efforts to force members out of the Fed is likely illegal, and it's also a major overreach of his power. Here's PBS with more.
President Trump today doubling down on his fight to exert control over the Fed, repeating claims that he has the authority to fire Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook, accusing her of making false statements to get a better mortgage.
She seems to have had an infraction, and she can't have an infraction, especially that infraction, because she's in charge of, if you think about it, mortgages, and we need people that are 100% above board, and it doesn't seem like she was.
Mr. Trump announced Cook's firing in a statement late Monday, writing, quote, "I have determined that faithfully executing the law requires your immediate removal from office."
What she did was bad, so I'll fire her if she doesn't resign.
Trump vowed last week to remove Cook if she didn't step down. The law does allow a president to fire a Fed governor, but only for cause. Cook fired back in her own statement today, saying, quote, "President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law, and he has no authority to do so. I will not resign."
First of all, if we need people in government to be 100% above board, Donald needs to resign immediately. On Tuesday, Cook's lawyer, Abby Lowell, said that she is going to file a lawsuit challenging Donald's authority to have her eliminated, adding that the trumped-up accusation that Cook committed mortgage fraud, quote, "lacks any factual or legal basis," unquote. An article in The New Yorker notes that since Donald isn't getting any major pushback or pressure to stop his assault on the Fed from investors or large corporations, he's likely to continue doing what he's doing. Quote, "When there is no pushback, he keeps pushing. In recent weeks, he has threatened to oust Jerome Powell, the chair of the Fed, fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which released a jobs report that he didn't like, and now tried to fire Cook. Taken together, these steps constitute an unprecedented effort to wrest personal control of the U.S. economic policy machinery, but one which is entirely consistent with Donald's broader effort to accumulate as much power as he can and dismantle any remaining constraints on his actions," unquote. All of that is accurate, but what Donald is doing with the Federal Reserve Board is particularly troubling and can have serious implications for the American and indeed the global economies. This is what's going on here. There are a total of 7 governors on the Federal Reserve Board. Each of them is appointed to a staggered 14-year term. In other words, their terms are overlapping. An individual governor's term expires every 2 years, which limits the number of governors any one president can appoint in order to safeguard the board's independence. That is, in order to avoid turning it into an engine of the political party in power. Therefore, no president, at least until now, has been able to stack the board, ensuring governors retain the ability to consider longer-term economic impacts beyond the current political moment. That is, make apolitical decisions about how best to protect our economy. When Donald took office in January 2025, 2 of the 7 governors had already been appointed by him during his first term. Now, because of the resignation of Fed Governor Adriana Kugler earlier this year and the pending potential removal of Cook by Donald, he may have the opportunity to stack the board with a total of 4 handpicked sycophants who have proven their willingness to do his bidding, even though he himself has shown us that his only skill when it comes to the American economy is destroying it. This chart from the New York Times shows that there is a very real danger that Donald's appointees will continue to control the Fed for many years, even after this term ends. This is exactly the strategy Republicans used in order to stack the Supreme Court, the dire consequences of which were exacerbated when in one term, Donald, with the help of his corrupt party, had the opportunity to install 3 justices in 4 years. To put that in context, Joe Biden had the chance to appoint only 1 justice in the same period of time. If Donald succeeds in his illegal attempt to remove Cook and install his own loyalists, there well may be an immediate impact on our economy, with stocks falling in response. There will also be an array of long-term consequences. The Fed's institutional independence is one of the major reasons the US dollar has been the world's primary reserve currency for so long. For over a century, the Fed's autonomy has inspired global confidence in the American dollar in particular and the US economy in general. By weakening both with his aggressive and politically motivated takeover of the Fed, Donald has accelerated the decline of the dollar as the global reserve currency. Here's MSNBC with more.
This is the first time in 112 years that a U.S. president has moved to force out a Fed governor. The independence of the Federal Reserve has been a key element of American exceptionalism for over a century. And in one single social media post, President Trump may have kicked that to the curb tonight. And his cause to fire a Fed governor? An allegation of mortgage fraud made by a member of the Trump administration, Bill Pulte, who oversees mortgage giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
I am really, really disheartened and disappointed to see the politicization of the Federal Reserve. I think, and you got to it in your intro, Steph, we're in a situation where the independence of the central bank is such a critical national asset and such a key pillar of our economic security that it's been really hard to watch over the course of the last many months, the president and this administration try to interfere in the monetary policy function of the Federal Reserve. And I'm worried, frankly, about the signal that this sends about our economic strength. And I think you're starting to see that the market is worried as well.
Providing further context, AI Invest writes, quote, "A politicized Fed, however, risks prioritizing partisan objectives, such as an artificially low interest rate to stimulate growth ahead of elections, over data-driven policy. This could erode investor confidence, triggering capital flight and a reevaluation of the dollar's role in global portfolios," unquote. The dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves is already in decline, while the euro, yuan, and even cryptocurrencies are gaining traction as substitutes. Perhaps it's just a coincidence that while Donald is tanking the American economy and weakening the dollar, he and his useless sons are heavily investing in and promoting cryptocurrencies. But all of this is of a pattern. It is to undermine Americans' faith in things that they once trusted so that Donald can accrue more power, taking advantage of the fear he and his regime continue to instill in the American consumer. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.